Okay, let's talk a little bit about a few things at City Hall. I got a little bit of time. The first thing is the embezzlement at City Hall, and I think if you remember in June we were talking about this, and the reason why I'm bringing it up again is because we know that we had a city employee, and that city employee had embezzled more than $500,000 from the city coffers. That was $531,000. And what this gentleman did is he managed a fund that just held money in abeyance for when a contractor would complete some activity for the city. And of course, when all this was found out, Ken Striplin was talking about the intent is to prosecute him to the fullest extent of the law. But in some respects, I don't think that's the real problem. The real problem is, why did this occur? How did it occur? What are you going to do to keep it from happening again? So the city had this fund. Some of the business processes are not integrated. So when a developer would end up completing a project, it didn't automatically refund the money to them. They had to go and ask. And if for some reason they didn't ask for a long period of time, well, this fund just sat there, money sat in it, and was just created a great opportunity for someone to turn around and say, look at all that money is just sitting there doing nothing. I think I'll help myself to some of it. This theft also was very interesting because it was not uncovered at City Hall. It was uncovered by the Sheriff's Department by an anonymous tipper. And that tells you something also about the way City Hall currently works. So when this all happened, we said, hopefully Santa Clarita will take this as a learning experience, determine what the root cause is, and implement the appropriate mitigations. Those are the charts that we used way back in June. And so in May is when the story broke. And then in July, I went back to public participation and asked questions about it. What actually happened? How did you know what was, the article said you were going to have a forensic audit. What actually happened in the audit? What did it tell you, and what are you going to do about it? So at the time, now that we're back in July, our city manager said the criminal investigation should be wrapped up by the end of this week, and the forensic audit should be complete at the end of next week. And at that time, we're going to share information with the council, the community, and the press. And in fact, the forensic audit did complete within 2 weeks, and they did put it out online, but I don't really think they really shared any information with the council, with the press, with the public. What the audit indicated is that the city was operating, particularly in that area, without documented procedures, without integrated processes, or without adequate safeguards. So if you looked at that forensic audit, it had some 250 pages in it. I don't remember what the exact number was now, but only 17 pages of it were the summary. The rest of it was all artifacts. So you could look at the artifacts that were being used to get that money. And you could see the check requests were made out, handed to management, and management approved them and signed this little on this little line that says, I certify that this is all true and accurate, blah, blah, blah. So you can see that it became an issue of someone not really looking very hard, but just signing the item. And then in some cases, the gentleman wanted to change contractor information, change the name of contractor slightly, or change the address to which something was going to be shipped, and just filled out a form and hands it to into the IT system, and someone just goes and makes the change. It wasn't really scrutinized as to why you wanted to make the changes. And lastly, the majority of the checks in all those artifacts were picked up by city staff. Either they were picked up by him directly, or he had someone else pick them up and give them to him. And as far as I'm concerned, city staff should never, ever be picking up checks that are supposed to go to someone else. They should go directly to that person, or that someone should come in and pick them up. But you never just hand them back to staff. And the vast majority of these 200 pages of artifacts showed that almost all of them were picked up by a city staff member. So when they said the criminal investigation should be wrapped up at the end of the week, it was, and that they were going to share that information. And when will we get a full accounting? When will we get a full accounting of what happened, what we're going to do about it, how we're going to go prevent that? And so far, what we've heard at city council meetings is to listen to some of the city council members say, well, no matter what we do, someone's going to steal from us anyway. They'll always figure a way around the system, and that's just not the way big business works. You don't just assume that someone's going to steal from you, so that's okay. I mean, you need to put some stuff in place to manage your business and ensure that you're doing what you should be doing. So one of the reasons why I'm going to keep bringing this up is because it's time that we know what happened, and the only way we're going to find out is keep asking, because the paper isn't asking, and if we don't ask, no one will. The projected Bermite ground cleanup was an interesting situation. We realize that we have intra-jurisdictional meetings. They're chaired by Keller and Acosta, and every 3 months it is that everybody comes together and they talk to each other, and you hear people babble back and forth. And we were constantly going and asking a question, where's the schedule? When does it end? Are you on schedule? What you're talking about today, if something is waiting and didn't happen, is that going to affect the end date? And we were always told, oh, no, don't worry about it. We'll be done in 3 to 5 years. And no matter, we went back the next year and it was 3 to 5 years. Then all of a sudden it became, oh, we're going to get done next year. So at the September 23rd city council meeting, which was 2 city council meetings ago, I went up in public participation and said, when is this going to end? What date is it that we're going to get a completion? And Mayor Keller says, well, I don't have a definitive completion date. I don't know when it's going to end. And probably within another year. Well, between that council meeting and the October 11th council meeting, the Gazette reporter did a story on the Whitaker-Bermite cleanup. And as a part of that, he got a hold of people that he knew, and they gave him the completion schedule. And he passed the completion schedule on to me. And I went back to the October 11th city council meeting and passed it on to them, right? And said, look, here's the end date. And the end date on this schedule is the second quarter in 2019. And we know that the money goes away after some date in 2019. So don't we want to manage this more carefully? And we'll just have to wait and see what happens. Because from the Department of Toxic Substance Control, the project manager in the article in the Gazette says, I'm not worried whether it's going to complete in 2019 or not. There'll always be a pot of money for me to work with. Well, that might be true, but who do you think the money's going to come from if the insurance company stops investing? So the next facility and citizens advisory group meeting is going to be on November the 2nd, correct, Mr. Drew? So if you can make it, the inter-facility meeting is, it's 3:30 in the afternoon at a time when almost every working person can be there. And but this citizens advisory group meeting, that is at 7 o'clock, right? So try to make one or the other, and we'll send you out a little bit more information. A little bit quick story about a bus bench. I just thought this was the most unique thing. As a part of, I'm not supposed to campaign here, so as a part of my daily activities now, I go out and wave signs on corners, and they are not signs that say we'll work for food, okay? But so I was up right here on the upper picture is taken at Sierra Highway just by Golden Valley Road, and this elderly gentleman came walking up and sat down on the curb and dangled his feet in the street. And I walked over to him and said, I don't think that's a really good idea. There's a lot of traffic here. And he looked up at me and he said, well, I have balance issues and there's no place to sit. Well, a couple of trucks came really close and he decided that maybe it wasn't a good idea to sit there. And he got up and he hugged the bus bench sign, which is just above one of those guys in the yellow shirts, jackets, and waited for the bus to arrive. So I posted that online. And lo and behold, the community just continued to post against it. They posted so much against it that the city finally posted and said, we'll fix it. So I said, well, that's really great. So I went back a couple of days ago and saw that picture of a typical government activity, 2 guys working, 4 guys watching, and posted it out online again. And I'm amazed. I was amazed. I mean, all of a sudden I had between on the 4 pages I posted it on, I had something like 800 likes and just tons of comments. So I want to thank everybody for joining in on this, because it shows that together we can make a difference, and City Hall will react when they see a lot of people working. You heard about Measure A tonight, 1.5 cents per square foot, $22.50. In addition to the $33 for open space and parkland preservation district. And I would suggest a no vote. I think that it's going to, when I went to see some of the other places where they were doing informational meetings, most of the money is going to go south of here. And if we really want to do that, we can always raise the money in our own community and spend it here. But I'm afraid that this and Measure M are going to be decided by the whole county, and we're probably going to get drugged right into it. But that's another question. Measure M, I think, is even worse. It's to generate this 1 cent sales tax forever, to build mostly things outside our area. The 138, to complete the 138 out in the desert, and also to do some big projects south. Here, what they're going to do is they're promising now to build the 2 lanes on the I-5 that they promised the last time they raised taxes, which was at that time it was going to become toll roads. Now they've decided they're not going to become toll roads. But the thing that I thought was the most interesting was that the claims that they're going to eliminate bottlenecks. Well, the bottleneck, I hate to tell you, is not on the I-5. The bottleneck is the 14 I-5 interchange. And if they're not going to fix the I-5-14 interchange, all they're going to do is make people get there faster to back up farther. So this is one that I just, it's another no vote as far as I'm concerned. But again, we'll probably get moved in with the rest of the county. Last thing I wanted to just touch on is the manufactured home rental panel ordinance. This is something that I think is just a method of operation that the city uses that I just think is unconscionable. Over the last year, I attended quite a few of the panel meetings and listened to the panel decisions, and I tell you, it was really painful. Staff violated their ordinance by asking the panel to reconsider planning director's decisions. When the ordinance says that the planning director makes the final decision. I didn't think that was right when the ordinance was written, but when the ordinance was written that way, and then they decided it didn't work out the way they wanted to, they decided to change it on the fly. The decisions that they were asked to make and directed by staff were based on information that was not included in the ordinance. I don't know why the panel just didn't say, you know what, it's not in the ordinance, I don't want to consider it. If you want it in the ordinance, go back to the council and have them put it in. Okay, but that's not the way it worked because of the way the panel was staffed. And then staff allowed the park owners to interpret the ordinance to allow collection in one of the parks of governmental pass-throughs. In other words, costs that were on the tax bill or required by the government back to 1993. Now you can interpret that as one or two ways. They interpreted it as a way that, yes, you can just go back and collect all those fees. That's not the interpretation I had. And now when they got asked again, they turned around and said, well, they can't do it again. Well, you know what? If it said it once, you could do it again if that's the interpretation you want to pick. So when we talked about this before, and we were going through this process, the city manager says, I recognize the process is not working well. I want to make changes to the process. I know I got stuff to do, but I'd like everybody to just wait, go through the rest of the meetings for this go-round, and when they're completed, we'll come back, and we're going to evaluate what needs to be changed, and we're going to propose those changes. So it's October now, and we're about to start another round of meetings. And there are no changes being proposed unless they're going to come out on the agenda this next council meeting. So this is what, when we say what happened to changes, this is just the type of a situation that I think is unconscionable, where we get promised something and then everybody hopes that if they wait long enough and don't do it, we'll forget about it. Okay, but I got a really long memory. Okay, so I come back, and we started this off with the embezzlement, where they said, just wait, we'll give you answers. And I'm ending it with the manufactured home rent panel ordinance, where they said, just wait, and we'll give you changes. And if you just wait and you don't ask the questions, well, you're going to wait forever. So expect me to be standing up at the next council meeting asking for those changes. So do we have anybody that wants to speak tonight? Okay.
I don't think you're aware of this, but I live in the Clarita Chaparral tract, which is Canyon Country. I'm a proud representative of Canyon Country on the College District Board, District Area seat. That's what I represent. But my neighborhood is not within the city. Our little neighborhood, the Clarita Chaparral tract, which is directly across from the Nature Center, we're bisected out of the city. And I would like to request that we somehow be incorporated into the city. And I just wanted you to know that, okay, because you are running, and I think a lot of people don't realize that we're not in the city.
So you're just on the outskirts of the city?
Yes.
So I would assume that I keep hearing them say all the time that if a residents come and ask to be annexed, they would be more than happy to do that. So I would suggest that you go and ask.
Yeah. So it takes 100% of the residents who are willing to do it. So that's what we need to do.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks.
Well, I don't think it takes 100%, but it takes a number of the residents to start the process, and then they would poll the residents. It has to go through the to LAFCO to make sure that that they can provide the services that you need, and there's a whole process that goes along with that. But what we keep hearing at the city council meetings is, if there are areas that are interested in annexing and come to us and ask to be annexed, that they would be willing to push that through the process. So I suggest you ask, or you could wait till after November. You might have something more friendly.
I'm not sure, and I really haven't taken the pulse of the people in my neighborhood. There's only 32 houses in there, and I haven't taken the pulse enough to know what people think about it. I'm all for it.
Okay.
But so maybe I'll wait till after the election.
Okay. Anybody else today?
Nobody here.
Okay. All right. For the next meeting, of course, for November, we're going to talk about election results. Of course, we'll have had the inter-jurisdictional meeting and the CAG meeting. We'll talk about that in relation to the schedule, because I'm going to be asking schedule questions since I have one now. And whatever else happens to come up over the month. Remember that in December, we're dark. We don't meet in December. We'll be back again in January. And for all you hardcore Canyon Country Advisory Committee members that would come here rather than listen to a debate or watch the Dodger game, I want to thank you very much, and I hope to see you back here again next month. Thank you.